Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Andertons TV. My special guest today is Marty Friedman. He really needs no introduction. He's one of the finest guitar players I've ever met. I found out today that he likes spicy food, Viz comics, and Elvis Presley vinyl. Who knew?
Who knew?
So welcome to Guildford,
Very
man.
nice to meet you.
It's really, really cool. I
Right.
appreciate you coming over, and I'm super looking forward to your clinic tonight. It's
Oh, yes.
awesome.
Yes.
As is the way with all these kind of Andertons interviews, I love to sort of get a feel for, you know, the artist growing up and what it was that, you know, those magical moments that made you think, oh yeah, the guitar's going to be my thing. So take us back to you know, when you were a kid and what it was like.
All right. Well, I really wanted to be into sports because I loved sports, baseball and American football, not to be confused with soccer. Not that I was any good at any of those, but I really would have loved to have been an American football player. But look at me. I mean, really. I would have been killed in the first game. But loved sports so much, but I knew somehow that was not going to happen. But I didn't know what I was going to do until I saw Kiss. Then the next day, got a guitar, got an amp, and got started.
And how old were you when you first saw Kiss?
I was like 13 or 14.
Okay, so relative late starter to the
Late,
guitar.
yeah, late.
And what was that, what was it that, you know, you were playing just sort of rock guitar, so you were instantly into that kind of vibe, or were your parents listening to lots of different music in the house?
It was really Kiss and the Ramones.
Okay.
Which was a great thing because I could learn them relatively quickly and get that satisfaction, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Had I been into King Crimson or something like that, I might have said, this guitar is too hard, it's not for me. But I had the punk songs and the rock and roll songs down really quickly, and even I just got started, so I thought that, wow, you know, it's not really that hard. Little did I know that, like, if you want to try to do something else, you have to work a lot harder, but I was really glad to have that satisfaction at the beginning, and it kept me going, and I got in a band right away and started to live the exact same lifestyle I'm doing now. You write music, you rehearse it, you record it, you play it live, and nothing's changed, really.
So what was it, whereabouts in the States did you grow up?
Washington, D.C.
Okay, so there was a reasonable scene there, I guess, was there, even when you were growing up? It wasn't like a backwater kind of vibe? And
not too backwater, but Washington, D.C. was never known for being a rock mecca. New York was kind of a punk rock scene at the time, and my band was sort of a cross between punk rock and hard rock, and so we played as much as we could, and we played a lot. We're all 14-year-old kids. We had a lot of energy and really were doing it at an early age, so none of us had a whole lot of chops, but we all had like tons of energy and just loved playing loud music.
So where did that sort of need to sort of get the chops up? You know, you relatively quickly became known for, you know, playing some serious chops, you know. So how was that? Did you go through a formal education, or?
No, and I never really had a huge wood shedding kind of experience. You know, you hear about guys practicing hours and hours in their bedroom. I never really had that, but I always had like a project going on. Like I was in a band working on mostly original material at the beginning, and the more you do it, you get more ambitious. You want to try something cool, and to do that, you need to kind of up your game a little bit. And when you're always around a band or around people watching the band, you kind of up your game more than in your bedroom. So I found that playing with my band or playing live or writing music was really valuable when I tried to up my chops game. And when I was in my late teens, I discovered that learning foreign music was going to be the ticket to me having different chops than the other guys. Everybody else around me was like, you had your perfect Van Halen guy, your perfect Jeff Beck guy, your perfect whoever, insert guitar god hero, and there was somebody in the neighborhood, even in Hawaii. I mean, Hawaii's a dot in the ocean, and there were guys who could literally just kick ass on that stuff. And I'm like, there's no way I can play what these guys are playing. But I was learning, I started like with Indian sitar lines, and then I went into vocal lines of Japanese traditional music, then Chinese music, the Chinese I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Erhu, and it's like a violin. And I started learning those lines, and then cello lines, and all these different lines from other instruments and other countries. And that forces you to do different things than every single other person had. Like, you had mixes of the great guitar gods. You know, you had guys who played like a cross between Hendrix and Page and Ritchie Blackmore. Then you had cross between Jeff Beck and whoever the other guys were. And they were all fantastic. You look at these guys and go, oh my God. And, but I was kind of always more attracted to note choices and chords under the note choices that I didn't hear in traditional rock. So if you listen to, say, Chinese music, you'll hear strange chords under strange melodies, and if you analyze them, they don't really come up in rock too much. And the concept of harmony is completely different than what we grew up with rock and roll and then in heavy metal. So having studied a lot of that as a late teen kind of gave me that warped. That was the closest thing I did to woodshedding, was analyzing.
You must have had a very eclectic kind of record store in Washington, you know, locally, to be able to even buy.
Not in Washington. When I moved to Hawaii
yeah,
in my late teens. In Washington, I was just like, you know, if there was a safety pin, I would have put it in my Jeep. But that was already old news by then. But we were really all about energy and kicking ass with rock, you know. And then when I moved to Hawaii, I saw a lot of cultures mixing and heard, wow, what's this? And I've never heard anything like it. I've got to figure it out, you know.
But did you have a sense that in order to maybe make a career out of this, that you would have to combine that style of music with something more Western and commercial, or?
No, I never really wanted to play that style of music.
Okay.
I was always a rock person, and heavy rock. I love the sound of distorted guitars. But as far as adding information into my bank of information, there's already enough guys who pretty much have the masters down. And I could never compete with those masters anyway. And I don't want to compete. I just want to contribute something else that is part of me. It's like when I hear something, even now, I'll hear something in a restaurant. I'll hear a strange time signature, and I say, well, I'm going to use that. And so I never really considered that I was mixing anything. I was just doing exactly what I wanted to do, and never really considered about making a living at anything, because, you know, music is like, it's like the lottery if you make a living at it. So I just wanted to make sure I could get the music in here out and done and completed, and then you can't control whether anyone likes it or not.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm satisfied with it, then let the chips fall where they may. You know, I can't control what other people did.
I see where you're going with this, but at what point was it that you realized that people were digging what you were doing, and you started to become a bit of a guitar hero?
Well, that kind of started even at the beginning, when I was playing punk kind of rock and roll, and I had a band called Deuce. We were all 14, 15, and we had tons of fans. We played in this like big barn with a double stage and a drum riser, and we were like little rock gods. So we had already had that rock star ego thing from the early age, and we were playing up to the hilt, getting wasted all the time, chicks, and we were just loving it. And little do you know, if you want to be a lifer in the business, you can't be doing drugs, and you got to like get responsible and create real music. But I was very lucky. I got that all out of my system by the time I was 17.
Wow.
I loved every minute of it.
So you had the dream team, didn't
the
you?
total dream team. We were good. We are a seriously good band, and the dream team. But like, you can't do that forever. And I want to make music for as long as possible. So I quit all of those bad influences and started really focusing on music much more.
Was that part of the move to Hawaii? I mean, that's not an everyday.
Well, that's not why. That was my dad got transferred to Hawaii. So.
Okay.
That was a double-edged sword. I thought, Hawaii's great. There's beautiful girls everywhere. It's great. Which is true. But when you get there, there's like no music down there.
It doesn't strike me as the kind of place that's ever been like the mecca for certainly not rock music. Anyway.
No, it was like a time warp, and nobody liked the music I was making. At that time, I was trying to make the most intense, heaviest guitar maniac music I could, and they were like, first of all, they're like 20 years behind, but only Hawaiian music was popular there. So I was hated down there, and I couldn't find band members, of course. I found a drummer who I loved, and we worked out a lot of great stuff together, but it was really hard work. But that probably helped me develop, because I knew nobody was going to like it, but I just wanted to do exactly what I wanted to do. And I did that. It was very, very... I remember working very hard with that band, Hawaii.
Yeah. And then as soon as you were old enough, is that when you thought, I've got to move back to the mainland? And
Yeah. You know, when you have a band and you have dreams of going on tour, my band, Hawaii, it was called Hawaii. We had a tour of the West Coast in America booked. And we had a couple indies albums out, and we did our little tour. And at the end of the tour, I have no idea where the band went. We just kind of poof, we split up. And I think other guys went back to Hawaii. I stayed in San Francisco and put together Cacophony, but it was weird. Nobody said goodbye or anything. It was not very romantic at all.
Do you think that kind of, I mean, that period, guitar reached a kind of a mainstream, probably its biggest peak in mainstream interest in that kind of super virtuoso, you know, what you were doing, and the Vi and the Satriani and all that, and the Van Halen element. Do you think that's sort of, you know, what was it like at that time? Because it almost feels it's gone more niche again, and then it was just almost like everybody had Passion and Warfare. And
I don't really know, because I was never really in tune, so to speak, with that community or that. I was more of the mindset that if I did an album that didn't sound like anybody else, and I was doing something totally unique and totally my own on guitar, at least if it flops, then I'm happy with it. If it comes out and people like it, that's great. And to get that done, there was a label called Shrapnel Records, and I was one of the first guys to release anything on that, and all they wanted was insane guitar. And I was cool with that, because by that time I had developed a lot of insane guitar ideas, but like I don't think they were like the other guys who were doing that. I think the other guys were much more mainstream than I was. And I was kind of influenced by, like I said before, all these Asian music and weird time signatures and kind of dissonant things. Like I was listening to Stravinsky and Scriabin and things that don't find their way into guitar virtuoso world. And I never ever wanted to be labeled a guitar virtuoso.
Oh, okay.
Never. I mean, I've never bought anything because guitar virtuoso.
Yeah. Or
or any virtuoso for that matter. I just want to hear music that I like. So I didn't want to be put into that category. But
it's interesting you say that, because I've heard you in other interviews kind of try not to be labeled as a shredder or a virtuoso. You know, it's what is it that you? Is it just purely this idea of you don't want to be pigeonholed with other people? You just want to go, look, this is what my brain is doing.
It's not other people. I mean, my friend Ricardo's taking me all around Europe, and he works with great people all the time. I mean, he works with Guthrie Govan and Robin Ford and all these like super players. So like if you want to put me in their league, more power to you. I'd love it. But when I was a kid, I don't know if it's the same now, because people take it as a compliment, I guess, but they used to say the word shredding, and what it meant was just playing really fast.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to be playing fast so much that people think that that's what I'm known for. I would be so depressed. And sometimes it happens. Marty Friedman, known for his fast guitar lightning skills, fucking hate it. I mean, if you listen to my records, there are fast passages. And especially the more recent records, they happen in places where I put them in so much impact that maybe people think I'm playing fast more than I really am. So it's very important where these exciting runs go. But like when I hear the word shredder, I think of these, like a lot of the CDs I get, unfortunately, guys playing like fast
shredding.
all the time over like some kind of completely random drum machine beat and like meaningless bass patterns and meaningless backing, and they're just playing fast all the time. And to be honest with you, a lot of people who don't really listen to guitar that much will put everybody together in that group because it just sounds like fast wailing. And so I really don't like that term. But if you're using it as a compliment, like most people are, I do not take offense.
Yeah.
I appreciate any kind of compliment, but I really don't like that term.
No, and from what I've heard, and certainly the only time I've had the pleasure of being in the same room as you whilst you were playing, which was during the track you played, the degree of light and shade in your playing, and like you say, you can hear all those microtonal kind of bends that have been influenced from different styles of music, from non-Western Eastern music. It does make it terribly interesting, and there's even
or interestingly terrible.
Or it could be terribly interesting or interesting terrible.
Yeah.
I don't think is there a difference? It's fine. It's just a point of view, isn't it? But okay, so I suppose it's quite, I think you're quite a modest and humbling person to sort of, when I say virtuoso, I mean it as a compliment. I don't mean it as to sort of.
I got it. And
I think that's probably what everybody means.
I'm sure they do.
But so you then had tell me about how sort of really finding your feet, because of course the early part of your career was more bandy kind of stuff, and I presume laying down guitar parts to fit the band that you were in. So tell me sort of through that period, what was it that what was your sort of journey to go, I need to do a Marty Friedman thing and just...
Really, I mean, I'm not I gotta be a solo guy. Definitely not. I'm way more of a band guy.
Right.
And that's why I do a lot of touring with my own solo project. But believe me, I would love to be a part of any exciting project, any type of band project. I do plenty of band projects in Japan and in all around the world, actually. I do a lot of things, but I would always prefer a band project than to just be, I'm the main guy. I mean, I love doing my stuff, and my last couple albums have just been stuff that I'm super, super proud of. I mean, my live album, One Bad MF and Wall of Sound and Inferno especially, those albums are like, it's my guts laid out there. I've never worked that hard. I've never been that satisfied. Love that stuff very much so. It's been a joy touring with that around the world, and I intend to do more. But I way prefer band life and playing in a band, and I love playing in units of any kind.
Have you got a sort of a bucket list band, like like...
No.
You don't have like John Mayer's doing the sort of Grateful Dead thing. You haven't got like one going, okay, if they ever needed a guitar player, that
Grateful
would be
Dead?
the one. I didn't mean them specifically, but just because he's joined it as a kind of a...
He joined Grateful Dead?
They do this thing called Dead and Company, which is the surviving members of Grateful Dead and John Mayer, and they go and tour and they do some of his songs and some of theirs, and it's kind of... But I wondered if you had even a band that aren't around anymore, like if they somehow magically on the other side reformed.
Only the Ramones, really.
Be the Ramones, would it? That would be cool.
But I mean, that's just in my gut, Your 13-year-old self never goes away. But I'm less into the past and more into futuristic new kind of things, that I would love to do something that's new and exciting. And I just like great collaborations, and I've done a lot of collaborations in Japan that have just been extremely satisfying. And but a full-time band would also be cool too. If my thing fits into a band thing, I'm way into it.
Well, let's talk about Japan, because we had a great lunch together. Your lovely wife joined us, and obviously you talk to her in Japanese all the time, and it's kind of, I always find that such a complex language compared, when you're brought up speaking English, or it sounds complex.
Well, any language that's not your own, I guess.
Yeah, but I think you can listen to French or Spanish and you can kind of get a rough, idea of what's going on.
Not French.
Maybe
Spanish.
So was there and I know you said musically you were drawn to certain Japanese music prior to even going there, but when did you first go there and suddenly think, wow, this is...
Well, the first time I went there on tour, I was in a band called Cacophony, and we were, we were on an indies label in America, and we did gigs in America, and then we went to Japan and did a tour, and you know how indies bands get treated in America. I don't know how it is in England,
right,
but it's not all that great.
Right.
And but when we went to Japan, we were playing proper venues and proper facilities and proper staff, and everything was clean and everything was on time and everything was done right. And I'm like, wow, you have to be an arena act to be treated like this in America. And so I was really impressed with their attention to detail when it comes to music. And so I just thought, I really hope this is not the last time I go to Japan. Because when you finally get there, you think, this is it. I'm never going to come this far away from my house again. I'm never going to make it this far again. So I was just really hoping that I could come back again, and I did.
And that was when you made the move. So what year was it that you decided to move to Japan?
I moved there somewhere around 2003 or 4 or something.
So you had 3 or 4 years after the Megadeth thing finished, and you were doing some more stuff in the States, and then that must have been quite a brave, just up sticks and go. I'm going.
Yeah, well, maybe you could say that a bit, but I think anybody who's a lifer in music has this natural thing to follow their musical. Something tells you need to do it. I mean, I was listening to Japanese music only for like the past 5 or 7 years in the late 90s and the early 2000s, no American music, and I was kind of really into the Japanese music and less into what was on the charts in America. Like if you look at the top 10 in Japan, then and even now, I probably like about 9 of the songs. But in America, especially now that they're like either rap songs or country songs, and it's all really good music, but it's not my cup of tea. And in Japan...
A very English thing to say there, well done.
Americans say that too.
Do they?
Yeah, they really do.
I thought maybe you'd pick that up in Japan. Maybe that's more. It sounds to me like they like it.
No, that's very American.
Okay.
But yeah, so the music scene always appealed to me. It came to a point where I was just like only listening to Japanese music, and it was just like kind of a no-brainer that, look, I want to inject my musicality into the Japanese music scene, not the international Japanese music scene, but the domestic Japanese music scene, and. That's exactly what I wanted to do, and that's exactly what I did.
And did you fairly quickly kind of just meet, Japanese musicians and let the music break down the language kind of barriers, or
By that time, there wasn't any language barriers because
Right.
I was speaking Japanese as a hobby, which was lucky. Because all of those years touring on the bus, people are playing video games, reading books, and I was not into those things. I was studying Japanese and reading and writing Japanese, and just for a hobby, because I really didn't have any hobbies. But I wouldn't ever have thought that I was going to use my hobby. But by the time, early 2000s, I was pretty much fluent in Japanese. So, of course, up until then, I was touring Japan many times and talking to the staff in Japanese, doing all my interviews in Japanese, even though I probably sucked a lot of the time. They were very cordial and put up with me and helped me learn Japanese, and they taught me a lot of Japanese. And then by the time I moved there, I was already fluent. So there was no language problem. But I wanted to be in the domestic world, and I was known for the international world from American bands. And so I had to meet a whole new group of people. And I met one of my favorite singers named Aiko Ananase, and I joined her band relatively quickly. And she's got a lot of fans all over Japan, and none of them knew who I was when I joined the band, which was great.
I was about to say, I get the sense you're the kind of person that would have gone, that's great, I'd much rather.
At first it was weird.
Yeah.
It was weird because I was playing full-on gigs, and I looked kind of the same, and nobody knew who I was. It was just, who's this foreigner? Because all of the people, or the majority of people listening to Japanese music, don't follow international music. and vice versa is always also the case. So if you're like a fan of, say, Metallica or Megadeth or Black Sabbath or whoever, chances are you don't know much about Japanese pop music.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you listen to Japanese pop music and Japanese rock and metal and visual kei and all that, which is about 80% of the population, they don't know U2 from Madonna. I mean, they really are deeply into this domestic world of Japanese music. So, and that's the world I wanted to get into because that's what I was listening to. So when I joined that world, nobody knew who I was, even though I'd been playing music professionally since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so it was weird, and I had to win over fans one by one, and it was great work.
Oh, that's cool. And so when you're in Japan and you're writing music, from what it does retain, I don't know about roots. It's a hybrid, isn't it, of kind of what you presumably grew up listening to and the rock side of thing with would you describe it as with a Japanese influence, or where do you think the roots are within?
I think it's deeper than that. I think sonically it's what I grew up with because I love the sound of a distorted guitar.
Yeah.
And so sonically it's that, but I think there's something in me that has a very Japanese melodic influence that even came from before I lived there, but living there has turbocharged it. Like I really don't know because I've written some music for Japanese artists, and when I hear it, I can't believe that I've written it because it's so Japanese. Right. I can't believe a white guy from Washington, D.C. has written this. You would never guess it. And it's more than just music theory. It's more than just placing these chords over this. There's something in the soul. So, and I'm not one of those new agey types with soulmates and all that thing. But I don't know where it came from. But somehow I really can emote these Japanese musical motifs and melodies and chord structures very naturally.
Have you found your taste in the gear that you're trying to use change much as you've sort of transitioned from, playing relatively mainstream rock and metal into this more, more of this Japanese influence thing? Are you still? I mean, I
know where you're going. It's sonically it hasn't changed much because I like loud guitar, loud heavy guitar. So whatever context I'm putting it in is cool, and I also like the complete, beautiful, clean, quiet, glassy, gorgeous guitar sounds too. But I'm definitely not a connoisseur of guitar tones or pedals or different kind of guitars. I'm way, way more interested in the melody and the interpretation of that melody. That's much more important for me. So sonically, it's pretty much whatever instrument I'm going to play, it's going to sound pretty close. Whatever rig I'm going to play, it's going to sound pretty close. So I've changed guitars. I've been so fortunate to have several signature models over the years. Now I'm back with the company Maxon, who did my signature Kelly many years ago, and they've got my new MF1, which is a wonderful guitar. And as you probably know with a lot of other guys that you've had here, when you're with a guitar company, it's kind of two things. The first thing is obviously the quality of the gear, but the second thing is the people that you deal with, because you have to play the guitar all year and you're all over the world and you need to be, I'm in Milan, I need a guitar, you need certain kind of personal attention. And the way they treat you in situations is kind of how you gauge how much you want to continue working with them. And Maxon has always been like a top list from A class, top class as far as people go. And gear, they took 2 years to make this the way I wanted it, only because I don't know how to describe guitar things well enough. I just no, it sounds cheap, or no, it's not heavy enough, or stupid things. And then they what is he trying to say with this? And prototypes after prototypes, and they're very patient with me, and they make a fantastic instrument. And so that's why. So it's the gear's quality, and then it's the people.
I loved when we were setting up, and obviously you bought your own guitar, and I guess you're traveling with
this. This is not mine. This is one that they prepared for me to do a bunch of clinics in Europe.
Fine. Yeah. And you've got one pedal, which I've never seen before, and it's you just leave it on all the time.
On zero.
On zero.
Yeah.
Great. And then we said, what kind of amp do you want? And you just went, find me something high gain, and if you like the sound, I'll like the sound. Which I don't think anyone has ever been that loose with, kind of, or trusting maybe is a better word, to just go, but is that just born from, it just doesn't interest you? Like, you just go, I like the sound, I'm really not interested how that sound is.
Yeah. I'd rather leave the cake baking to a baker. But let me get this completely straight. I so admire and have such a fond feeling for these super guitarists who not only play wonderful guitar, but they know every piece of gear, and they love turning knobs, and they love experimenting with sounds, and really intelligent with the electronics. And if something goes wrong and they're the only one there, they love to fix it, and they can do it. Guys like Steve Vai, just a brilliant, it's a whole different world. To me, that's like playing the saxophone as well as guitar. I mean, it's really something I admire so much. And Devin Townsend is another one of those guys who knows so much about effects and just really loves working with them. And I'm not that guy, unfortunately. If someone else can dial up a nice sound for me, I'm fine.
Oh, that's cool. And so, I wonder if, maybe it'll come. Maybe you need to just dig into one of those Line 6 things.
No, I hate it.
Really,
I hate it.
you
hate all that.
That's so refreshing.
Yeah,
because I'm kind of a bit like that myself.
You hate it.
If someone said to me, "You've got 60 minutes, and you can either spend 60 minutes playing the guitar, or 30 minutes playing guitar and 30 minutes trying to find a sound in a thing," I'm going with 60 minutes playing the guitar every single time.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, guys like Steve Vai and other guys, there are not a lot of these people out there in the world. That's why you got to realize it's a superstar level. The majority of people that I've come into contact in my life are literally pedal geniuses and gear geniuses. And those are the guys that I want to have as my tech. And sometimes they also play guitar really well too. Like my tech right now plays really good guitar. But I've had techs who can barely play guitar, but you put an amp in front of them and some pedals and they will dial you the sweetest tone ever. So I really like to surround myself with those kind of engineers, those kind of techs, and that's what really helps me a lot, because I just want to sit down there and interpret these melodies. I want to sing. That's what I do. I don't want to figure out what kind of battery to put in the mic. I want to sing.
No, I just wonder whether, because there are some artists. I mean, you mentioned King Crimson right at the beginning of this, and all of that kind of stuff are soundscapes almost, and it's all about using things that affect the sound of the guitar to create a scene, or I think we interviewed Jacko, the guitar player from King Crimson. He's had that gig for about 6 years. And he was talking about how Robert Fripp just creates these soundscapes, and it's just a very different technique. I wondered if you'd ever sort of thought, maybe one day I'll just try and write something.
No interest and no talent for that.
Right.
I have a lot of respect for them, and there's a group called Mono out of Japan. I don't know if you've heard of them. No. What they do with effects is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. It's like kind of noise music. Mm-hmm. It starts with the most beautiful silence, and it becomes louder than an airplane of white noise. But that journey from the silence to the white noise, done with guitars and bass and drums, is so friggin' cool. And they do it live, and it's just like chills and tears. No melodies, maybe a couple little melodies in there, but it's all done with guitar noises and effects and the brilliant use of those electronics, and I just love it to death. But it's not going to be me. But I do, when I record my albums, I have great guys who are suggesting effects, and I'll say, this is the type I want to play, the type of part I want to play. I'm going to play this melody here. What do you got? Right. I say, try this. And I'll have the engineers do that before I even show up. Today I'm going to do a ballad, and I'm going to do these clean parts. So get something, I'll go out and have a bite, like Nigel Tufnell says. I'll go across the street, have a bite. They come in, and they got a couple different clean tones there. A lot of people compliment the clean tone I got on an album called Scenes that I did. a while ago, and that was completely dumb luck. It was a Fernandez guitar that was given me from the rep of Fernandez, who's this totally smoking hot chick that I was endorsing Jackson at the time, and I had a ton of guitars there. I was not interested in the guitar at all. But this rep from the company brings this guitar in there. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll play it sometime, but can I get your number? It was that kind of thing. And then I was going for clean tone one day, and I'm like, let's try the guitar out of the case, and plugged it into just some random effects unit, and the heavens parted, and it was just the most beautiful clean sound I ever got. So I kept that guitar for sure. Never got the girl though, but I kept the guitar, and it's probably one of the people compliment me on that guitar sound more than anything, and it was just random because some cute chick brought it in there. So you just got to get lucky sometimes.
Sometimes. So in terms of where you're at now, fully well-established solo artist or able to write your own music, not having to worry about whether it's conforming to anything other than what you like.
Yeah.
Which must be musically probably where every musician would really like to sort of be.
Sure.
Where does that sort of take you then? Is there enough of an audience for that to feel like it's great and I can just carry on, or are you having to sort of explore? I know you do a little bit of tuition kind of stuff. I mean, where do you think you're?
I've been so lucky in Japan that my career has kind of spiraled off into a lot of different places. Mm-hmm. The main difference is television. So since I moved to Japan, I've done maybe 800 different television programs.
Wow.
And I'm just constantly doing television work, and that allows me the freedom.
What kind of television work?
Every possible kind of TV show, from musical shows to comedy shows to talk shows to even sometimes political. I'm not very good at that, but political stuff that I know nothing about, and educational shows and travel shows. And I did a really big special about Fukushima that has been aired many, many times, and game shows, quiz shows. Done a couple cooking shows, every possible kind of program in Japan. Of course, musical shows too.
Where's the because I can't think of a single, British or American guitar player that could say that there's that much public interest in them outside of the music that they write.
Yeah, a lot of these people who watch me on TV do not even know that I play music.
Yeah, so is that just some sort of fascination with a Western guy who's transitioned so well into their culture, and it's just interesting, or what's?
I don't know. I think,
or are you just an amazing cook?
No, I'm not. I'm not at all.
Commentator.
It was one of those weird life things. When I moved to Japan, all I wanted to do, like I said, was be part of the domestic music scene. And in doing that, I got asked to do this one TV show called Heavy Meta-san, which means Mr. Heavy Metal. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it was all about heavy metal, and I just finished playing heavy metal, and I was like, I wanted to be in this Japanese rock or pop or whatever kind of Japanese music world I wanted to get into, but not doing a comedy show about, it's kind of like taking the piss at heavy metal.
Right.
But with a good spirit.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't really want to do that, and I really want to concentrate on music. And they just say, try one. Just do one. Here's what we need you to do. They had me do something that only I could do, which was play an American song along with a Japanese song and mix them in such a way that Japanese people will think it's both the same song.
Right.
Which is a very weird thing to be asked. But I happen to know many, many Japanese songs, or Japanese traditional songs, so I've got all that in here. So I did that, and we did a bunch of comedy routines and a bunch of kind of silly stuff. And that first show was run by this Japanese company that produces TV shows, and they saw it, and they're like, "We want to manage you. We want to take this show." It was a pilot. We want to take the show for a full season, and we want to manage you. Can you please think about it, because this is really good? And I'm like, I don't know this Japanese TV production company. So I asked my friend at the record company to take a meeting with me and them, because I didn't know the TV world, and they said they're really good. They're like one of the biggest companies in Japan. So I said, yes, let's do it. We did one season. Thing was a hit. Then we went into another spin-off called Rock Fujiyama, which a lot of people in Europe seem to know. And that went on for 4 more seasons. And then I started getting TV commercials and parts in movies and Coca-Cola commercials. And
that's amazing.
It really ticked me into a different place, which allowed me the freedom to not worry about things like budget on my records and worry about what the record company thinks of my record. And so what you hear on the record is exactly what I want it to be.
There'd be like thousands of musicians so jealous at the moment that you've kind of just that. Yeah, I mean, it's great.
It's nothing to be jealous of. It's just the thing.
I mean, not the specifics, but as in just the freedom that obviously lifestyle's given you to create.
Yes.
So what's the weirdest commercial you ever had to do then?
I've done. I did a Fanta commercial, different commercials for 2 years, and it was a band. It was 5. It was myself and other people, kind of well known in the Japanese television and music community, and a sumo wrestler on drums.
Of course.
and we played no music until the 2-year campaign was over. So it was like, what was this magical music that they're making? Nobody knew until 2 years we'd done this. So that was cool. And when I did one I really enjoyed was myself playing guitar with a koto player, you know, the koto on the ground, and it was for a bank. And one of the best koto players in Japan, and I did this arrangement of a song. And you can hear that song on my Tokyo Jukebox 2 album, available in Europe.
Get that plug in.
And get a plug in there. And I did this arrangement of Canon. That's that song that's been done to death on guitar.
Right.
You know, Canon by Pachelbel Bell.
Yeah.
And that's what the company wanted me to do. They want you to play it on guitar and do it with a koto. I'm like, that's the most tired song in the world done on guitar. No offense to anyone who's playing it, but it's just been done and probably better than I could think of doing it. So I didn't really want to do it. So I'm like, I got to come up with a really interesting arrangement of this for myself and a koto player. And we did that. And it became a really wonderful commercial. Really wonderful commercial. We did it live. You know, usually you record it and then you do the commercial. But no, we did it live as we were. So what you see in the commercial was really live. Yeah. But it's only like a 30-second commercial. I did a full version on my album, like 2-3 minutes. But that was a wonderful experience. And I did vitamins for Suntory vitamins. And it was funny, the vitamin one was, I did it the very day that I filmed the DVD for my Live in Japan DVD. It was done beforehand the show. It was a scene, me taking this vitamins. I take this vitamin and then play rock and roll or whatever it was. But I had to do a lot of takes. And each take, I took like 1 or 2 of these vitamins. So by the time I played the show, I had already taken like 30 of these friggin' vitamins. And I was like, is gonna come out yellow or something?
Probably.
I was a little bit worried about that, but the show was like...
the best show ever.
It was a good show. It was amped for sure, but... yeah, you get a lot of those fun opportunities in Japan.
It is. I think I'm really like, it's uplifting to just go, here's a real story of like success and happiness, as opposed to so many musicians who go, oh, it's so out there, you know, it's just like nobody buys my music anymore and I can't make any living and now I have to do these terrible tuition things, just to, you know, all this kind of like... Well,
listen, making music is just a privilege for any situation, you know what I'm saying? I mean... It's a privilege to have anyone listen to your music, whether it's one person or 1 million people. And the more important thing is that your music is done your way in some form. And you can have something that you can listen to that sounds like you, sounds like what you want your music to be. You can't control what happens after that. Then the rest of it is perspiration, trying to get it done. I would much rather be known for more of my music than for television. Of course, I love doing TV too, and it's a blast. I love it. But I would love to be a household name for my music. But my music is a little eclectic. But you never know what's going to come down the line. You know, I might get it right sometime. You never know.
Yeah. Well, it's every ticket we've sold to tonight are local Japanese housewives that have just come to see you because
you would not be surprised.
Anyway, I do want to talk about something that clearly you presumably can't get in Japan, and we had some fun with today. So, anyone outside the UK, will anyone outside the UK have a clue what Viz magazine is?
Unfortunately, no.
No. Well, that's fine, because most of the people watching this channel hopefully are in the UK. So, how does that work then? That you touch down in the UK and pretty much within the first 30 seconds of meeting each other, you say, is there anywhere where we can go and get a Viz comic from? Yeah. Where does that even come from?
That is, when I heard England was on the list of the itinerary to come into, okay, good. I haven't gotten Viz in a while. It's just so hilarious, and I just love the humor so much in there. And it's so non-PC.
Oh, it's completely non-PC.
And I just love that so incredibly much. And the characters are so funny. They're all like one note wonders, you know, but they continue that one note for years and years and years. You know where the story's going, but it's just as many different ways to say or or whatever. And that's just funny. It's always funny. It's always funny, and just the way they take the piss at the. You see, I'm talking like an English person.
Good.
We don't say that in America.
Good. Now, what do you say then? Take the Mickey?
No,
you don't even have that.
How do you say take the piss in American?
I don't know. I just thought you're the American.
They take the piss at the royal family and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I grew up in America, so I don't really know anything about it. But I just think it's so funny that there's this huge thing that represents England to the entire world, and you got stories in Viz about the most disgusting things that you could possibly imagine about your precious royal family. Like, who's writing this stuff? It's just so incredibly funny that I never get bored of it, and I don't even throw them away. I keep them and read them and read them, and I just love it.
And I mean, even
you
your
see that? Can you get a close-up of this?
There is a character. I mean, this is crazy. I've not read Viz since I was probably a student, so that's how long it's been going. And I've seen this plectrum and gone, you've got Sid the Sexist on your plectrum.
Right, on my
You can see even the name of the character.
That's English plectrum, yeah. See, I made my own personal pics. I put my logo on it, but I didn't put my name on it. I wanted to put Sid the Sexist. And people in England know who it is, but everybody else thinks it's me for some reason.
Can we get a series of these? We can do one with, it's Buster Gonad.
That's a great idea.
Do a whole different...
Yeah, but you know, when the pick company made this is there a copyright issue with this?
Oh, probably.
And I said, no. But so if we did a series, it might get a little bit risky.
But as long as they're not for sale, as long as they're just for you.
Well, they were,
yeah.
But so...
Oh, well,
but you know,
let's be fair. We've probably given Viz the biggest plug it's had in months.
No, I love it. Like, tits out for the lads. Can you say that with a Manchester accent?
Can I do a Manchester accent? Hang on, we may have to edit this out because it might be so bad. I normally have to. What would someone from Manchester even?
No, they say tits out for the lads, right?
That's actually Liverpudlian, isn't it?
Tits oot for the lads is how they write it.
Is that not a Geordie thing then?
Oh,
like
is it
Newcastle?
No,
Sid the Sexist, I'm sure, is a Geordie.
That's Geordie, right? See,
yeah.
I don't know the difference between Manchester and Geordie.
That's Newcastle.
So how do you say it?
Tits out for the lads, like, or something like that. I'm apologies to everyone from Newcastle.
And how about the fat slags? Where are they from?
Slags. The fat slags, where are they from? I mean, they could be from anywhere in the UK, to be fair. Are they Essex? This is literally, I'm now insulting huge swathes of our customers here.
Why?
Well,
they're so cool. I mean, every time I went to that part of the country, I asked the people who's ever there, can you read this Fat Slags article for me, or can you read this Sid the Sexist? Now, if they were just reading it, I wouldn't understand a word. But like, since I'm reading the comic, I can totally get. You know, I know what they're talking about. I think it's really hilarious, but I just love it when they read it, and I can't understand it.
Well, I'm so pleased that we managed to find you a copy of his, which we did find, along with some Elvis Presley records as well.
Yes.
So that's another thing I wasn't expecting you to do. And I think we're going to try and download the Viz app onto your phone as well.
Yes, we are.
Anywhere in the world, you can have some filthy British humour. If there's anything else that you would like to plug or tell the viewers about what your plans are for the foreseeable future, presumably you are set on seeing your days out in Japan, are you? That's where you're happiest and where you found your spiritual home?
It's definitely been the best for my musical well-being, but music leads me, man. Music leads me, so like you never know what's going to happen in the future. But for right now, I have a live album out. I'll do the plug portion.
Do
now.
the plug.
I have a live album out right now called One Bad MF Live, and it is available worldwide. And it's taken from my tour of last year, and it's the same tour that I'm on this year. I just finished the American part of the tour, and it was recorded in Mexico City, which was a wonderful show. And then after that, we did the whole United States, and I hope to tour Europe. I really want to bring my band to Europe. They outshine me every night. You will not believe how cool this band is. You got to have my bass player Kiyoshi in here sometime. She will destroy all these instruments. She's really something. Great band. You can hear them on One Bad MF Live, and hope to tour Europe sometime soon. Right now, I'm just finishing up a couple weeks doing masterclass type of things in Europe, which I'll do tonight here with you. And I'll go to Japan and do some more shows in Japan. I do an orchestral thing every season where I play. I have a lot of ballads in my music, which you can hear on Wall of Sound or Inferno or any of my records. I always have ballads, and they always have nice orchestration. So we do these live in Japan, spring, summer, and fall and winter. And we just did the spring one. So summertime, we're going to do another big one with strings and pianos and my full band and all that. So we do that, and some more TV stuff that won't necessarily make it to England, but hopefully, I really just want to tour more than I'm touring now. So that's the main thing. So hopefully I'll get there with my solo music or with something else, and you never know. I just love playing in front of people.
Oh, that's great. Well, please, if you tour the UK, hook us up again. We'd love to come and see you, or any comeback. Welcome on the show anytime you like, man.
Thank you for the hospitality.
It's been such a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. My
really
pleasure.
Looking forward to tonight. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe to this channel, and we shall see you in a video soon.
Thank you very much.